Hello, welcome to the Peace Partners program. I'm your host, Chuol Jany. Coming up in this week's show. Unity government says armed embargo, UN imposed delayed the graduation of unify forces and call for help from South Africa to lobby on removals of restriction.
So President Salva assured and was assured by Cyril Ramaphosa they should work together, that this issue of arms embargo delays the implementation of the peace process.
Oil companies warns against environmental pollution that risks many lives at the oil field. And U.S. government announced $95 million for aid to South Sudan. The money direct to World Food Program to provide food assistance.
These funds come at a very important time.
That's all to come in the program with me, Chuol Jany. President Salva Kiir Mayardit has returned to Juba on Sunday after a 3-day visit to South Africa. The mission described as a successful visit. Kiir asked South African President Cyril Ramaphosa to lobby for South Sudan's armed embargo removed by the UN Security Council. Dr. Barnaba Marial Benjamin, Minister of Presidential Affairs, said the two leaders held an intensive talk on the armed embargo issue that delayed the peace implementation.
According to the transitional government of national unity which has been formed, there is a commitment for the reforms in the security sector. And already, we have cantonment sites, and in these cantonment sites, there are supposed to be graduated, unified forces for the Republic of South Sudan. Now, if these troops are graduated, where will they get the arms so that they can become the national army of the Republic of South Sudan? So President Salva assured and was assured by Cyril Ramaphosa they should work together, that this issue of arms embargo delays the implementation of the peace process.
Dr. Marial also highlighted some of the issues delayed the implementation of the peace agreement. He said some of the areas stated in the peace deal supposed to be resolved by the parties to get a solution.
The claims that the implementation of the peace process is very slow, there are reasons for it. In the agreement, there are silent areas in the agreement which were not covered in the peace process. Now, these silent areas had to be negotiated by the parties in order to get solutions. This adds to delays. Also, the issue of sanctions being given all the time. But finally, the issue of sanctions in relation in a transitional sort of justice which is being sought by the United Nations. If we are going to have transitional justice that is punishing people, how do you do the issue of reconciliation and forgiveness in this country? All, in summary, the bilateral visit conducted by our president was quite successful, and indeed we expect in the days coming that President Ramaphosa may equally visit the Republic of South Sudan.
The minister further speak about the relationship between South Africa and South Sudan to partner in business. He said the two states agreed to work together in trade and investment sectors, include the peace in South Sudan.
South Africans to get more interest in investment projects, because in this country there are a lot of opportunities that need investment. The infrastructure, we have agriculture, we have the issue of the oil sector, the mineral sector, and South Africans have got the technology that they can help.
President Salva Kiir left the country on Thursday last week for what was described as a working visit to strengthen the bilateral relation between the two states, include the implementations of the peace agreement. South Sudan warned the private oil companies of environmental damage caused to the people and animals at the oil field. Oil minister said government will monitor the operation of oil companies and there must be a continuous environmental audit. Several reports indicated the damage that caused by the oil pollution to the residents include children deformed. Minister briefed the news media in Juba during the launch of oil tender contract that will audit the environment. Liel Nyak report.
The launch of the environmental audit process to the oil-producing region from the Ministry of Petroleum and Gas Commission seemed to be a starting point in the unity government of revitalized peace agreement. According to the agreement, all oil companies operating in the oil sector should be audited. Government action of environmental auditing has captured the attention of the participants who attend the launch. Citizens have felt the pain of what they describe failure of the oil company to protect the life of innocent people in Upper Nile, Unity and Ruweng administrative area. It is the first time South Sudan conduct its first oil auditing since 1997, when the oil producing began. The lives of South Sudanese in the oil field are deteriorating during the crisis due to lack of proper environmental protection. Now the ministry says much are needed in the unity government to mitigate the risk in the oil field. Minister of Petroleum and Gas Commission, Honorable Potkang, cautioned the oil company to put the lives of the people first. He said transparency and accountability in environmental auditing is vital. Mr. Pot said the aim of environmental auditing exercise is to find credible information and address environmental challenge in South Sudan.
When we talk about environmental audit, it's not like other audits. We are dealing with the life of our people. And if we are dealing with the life of our people, then we must be careful in the process.
The minister further advised the company that will be contracted for the environmental auditing should work within the law. The Minister of Environment and Forestry, Jaspina Nafon, urged the oil company to operate within the law to avoid environmental pollution that affect the life of local community. He warned the company of any negligence that might result into the loss of life in the oil operation within the law.
If all what I've said here is not taken into consideration, we have a right as a ministry to stop the operation. So we have to choose whether our people to die or to get money in their expenses. We have the right. And we'll put a case against the companies that have gone astray. Many people have lost their lives and have witnessed that. Many women are the victims now. They are giving birth to children who are deformed, children who will not even be leaders in this country any longer because they are already born when they are not human beings. So these companies one day will be answerable.
The representative of Unity State Government, Honorable Malwal Tapdio, said companies should protect the environment and put life first. He argued the sheer fate to the state where oil company is operating should not jeopardize people's health.
I also want to remind the Minister of Petroleum and all the stakeholders, especially the AOCs, that the 5% that is given to the oil producing states is not an exchange of the life of our people. In the Petroleum Revenue Management Act 2012, and there's nothing called exchange of our lives for 5%. Even if we've been getting it on a daily basis, it doesn't in any case mean that we are throwing away our lives to get the 5%.
According to the Minister of Petroleum, since the starting of oil production in 1997, environmental effect has never been audited in South Sudan.
Thank you so much, my colleague, for the report. The United States government has announced a new funding for humanitarian aid in South Sudan. The money will support displaced communities and life-saving assistance in the remote villages affected by the conflict. International partners urge the government to intervene in the community building while announcing the grant of $95 million on Thursday. The fund is directed to World Food Program to provide those in need with food assistance. Matthew Olowot is the World Food Program's country director. He said many vulnerable communities affected during the crisis living in remote areas are in dire need of aid.
These funds come at a very important time. They are part of a consistent, predictable support from the government of the United States to the people of South Sudan through, in this case, the World Food Program.
Recently, the World Food Program announced the reduction of food ratio to 50%. The U.S. ambassador to South Sudan, Larry Hadry, said South Sudan is in critical need of humanitarian assistance due to the political situation, severe flooding, and intercommunal violence. Diplomat is deeply concerned about the increased scale, intensified, and geographical threat of conflict in South Sudan, which affect food production.
South Sudan is facing the highest levels of food insecurity and malnutrition since independence in 2011, with the upcoming May to July lean season expected to be the most severe on record. Approximately 7.7 million South Sudanese, nearly two-thirds of the population of this country, will require food assistance, including an estimated 1.4 million children who are experiencing acute malnutrition.
Larry warned that South Sudan should not be a food deficit while it has an adequate rainfall, and also people have a potential to cultivate.
Conflict adversely affects food production by preventing farmers from cultivating their crops. It disrupts livelihoods and leads to depleted household food stocks. The loss of assets also creates incentives for people who become desperate and engage themselves in armed violence when they have no other choice, perpetuating a vicious cycle in which conflict and hunger are mutually reinforcing. The country does not need that.
The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management has welcomed the U.S. support to South Sudan. Integrated Food Security Pass classification released this year shows an estimate of 7.5 million South Sudanese need humanitarian assistance, include 6.5 million who need food assistance. That brings us to the end of this week's show. I'm your host, Chuol Jany. Join me again next week on Peace Partners Program, and do keep tuned to your radio stations.
Trouble, but if a new day gonna bring much trouble. Some of us pray there'll be no tomorrow. Let's end this suffering. You are my brother. When you are my sister. When dada yangu, take my hand. Tushikane mikono.